गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आन शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामविद्यवत् ॐ गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ शन्नो मित्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। वागीशाद्या सुमनसः सर्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यं नत्वा कृतकृत्या स्युः तं नमामि गजाननम्। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय कोटिसूर्य समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणे विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। व्यासं वसिष्ठनप्तारं शक्तेः पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिम्। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि, सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं, सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं यस्य सन्निधिमात्रेण सर्वे शिष्याश्च सेवकाः कर्मक्षेत्रे प्रवर्तन्ते चिन्मयं तं नमाम्यहम्, चिन्मयं तं नमाम्यहम्। Welcome back, everybody. Let's recap in our journey where we have come to. We have come really a long way. We started with Shreya, Preya, Viveka. We covered a lot of aspects of our Samskriti, the Adhyatma Samskriti, the Bhautika Samskriti, Shruti, Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, the classification of Vedas as the basis of our culture, three divisions of Vedas, Karma, Upasana, Gnana Kanda, and we covered that their main purpose is Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagrata, leading to that knowledge of self. Then we covered quite a bit of Karma Siddhanta, which forms the basis for reincarnation. We talked about how to turn karma to karma yoga, how to divinize our action. Then we talked about how to divinize our emotions through bhakti to gain chitta ekagrata, leading from saguna sakara to nirguna nirakara brahma. Then we went into the Gnana Kanda portion of the Vedas, also called as Upanishads or Vedanta, which has been our main focus. We learnt about Prasthana Trayi, the Shruti Prasthana, the Smriti Prasthana, Nyaya Prasthana, the four sample Mahavakyas, leading to the ultimate reality called Brahman. Along the way, we also covered the four aspects of the deity. We took Lord Narayana and Lord Shiva as examples, covered quite a bit of Dharma Shastra, Manusmriti, Chaturvida Dharma Lakshana, 10 most Sanatana Dharma values, eternal values, Varnashrama Dharma. We covered Gunatraya Viveka, Tamo Guna, Rajo Guna, Sattva Guna, how they veil our divinity. We talked about Varnashrama Dharma, understood the broad classification of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, based on Guna and Karma, not Janma Karma Vibhagashaha. We went into the 5 koshas, the Annamaya kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha, that helps in our Atma Anatma Vivechanam. I gave you two logic to transcend the sheets that are outlined in the Shastras. Madiyatvena Gnatam Atma Na Bhavati, the Neti Neti approach, the negation of what I am not. Then the second one was Drug Drishya Viveka. So in summary, we have covered Gunatraya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, Shariratraya Viveka, Avastatraya Viveka, all these forms of differentiation of self and not self. Then we analyzed and came to know AAA is our problem. Advitiya Atma Agnanam. Due to Adhyasa, which leads to avidya, that leads to this false identity notion called Ahankara. We have covered the nature of the self. Shastras say we are of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, that of existence, consciousness, bliss. We learned the 3 pointers: Swarupa Lakshana, Tatastha Lakshana, Atad Vyavritti Lakshana. In our, how we peel our onion for this Atma Anatma Vivechanam. Then the logic came about, thinking, hey, if I am of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, I don't feel that way. I feel limited, I feel finite. We call this Parichinnatva. That Jiva Bhava due to avidya. And Atma is devoid of all these differences. Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata, Veda, Rahita Atma. Then we understood the concept of Maya through the famous classic examples of rope and snake and the ghost and the post. Maya is that which appears to be. Yama sa iti Maya. Trigunatmika Maya. And we understood Maya is bestowed with 2 powers. The Avarana Shakti, the veiling power, which covers the truth, and Vikshepa Shakti, that which projects the unreal and makes it seem real or apparently real. This is Aghatita Ghatana Samarthyam, to make impossible possible. And then in the last class, with this vasanas, we dwelled into 3 types of vasanas: Loka Vasana, Shastra Vasana, and Deha Vasana. So that leads us to how do we develop these qualifications that are required? Success in any field requires prior qualification. Even if you are in college, if you have to take a graduate level class, they ask, have you completed the prerequisites 101 and 201 before you take 301? We know the qualification and the specialization, they become more subtle as the nature of work becomes more precise. Spiritual field, for that matter, is no exception. The goal of the spiritual seeker is the highest, infinite, true happiness, Nitya Sukha. It can only be attained by a qualified aspirant, qualified seeker. That qualified student for such a Vedantic study is called Adhikari. There is Manda Adhikari, dull-witted, Madhyama Adhikari, a mediocre person, and Uttama Adhikari, depending on the level of qualifications. This outline is not to discourage those who are not qualified, but to develop a full measure of qualification. For what? For Chitta Shuddhi, purification of mind, and Chitta Ekagrata, single pointed focus. So Vedantic texts refer to these qualifications required by the individual seeker. They are called as sadhana chatushtaya, the fourfold qualification. Let's explore each one of them today. So sadhana chatushtaya, I would like to call them 4Ds of Vedanta. Easy to remember, 4Ds of success in the spiritual field. First one is viveka, differentiation. Although the exact translation would be discrimination, because it has a negative connotation, let us use the word differentiation. First D. Second D is vairagya, dispassion. The third D is shama adi shatka sampatti, the 6 disciplines or virtues. We will go through each one of them individually. Finally, it is mumukshutva, a burning desire for liberation. Let's start with viveka, differentiation. As I said, commonly translated as discrimination, but in this country we have a negative connotation for that. So we will use the word differentiation. This is a faculty of the intellect. It is given to all of us to distinguish from one thing to the other. We differentiate from noble to ignoble, pleasure and pain, sukha, dukkha, honor, dishonor, mana, apamana. But unfortunately, sometimes this faculty is also used to discriminate between people of one race to the other, one color to the other, one country to the other, one language to the other, and so on. But the Vedantic differentiation, it goes beyond all this. It goes between what is permanent, nitya, and what is ephemeral, anitya. Nitya nitya viveka, nitya anitya viveka. According to Adi Shankaracharya ji, nitya vastu ekam brahma tad vyatiriktam sarvam anityam, a very broad statement. Meaning, viveka is that understanding that Brahman alone is permanent and everything else apart from it is ephemeral, seems real, unreal, mithya. You know all these definitions now. Most of the time, what we do, we use viveka. For what? Whether should I eat rice with sambar or should I just eat chapatis? They say multigrain is better for my sugar. Should I wear a sari? Should I wear a chudidar? This type of viveka. But we have to take this viveka shakti to the next level as a Vedantic seeker. That is the ability to distinguish between permanent and ephemeral. This ability is not unique to humans. Even animals, they can distinguish between heat and cold. Shita, Ushna, joy and sorrow, Sukha, Dukkha, their own offspring versus someone else's offspring. If you hold a bunch of grass, green grass, the cow comes to you. If you hold a stick, it runs away from you. This type of viveka is based on pure instinct in animals. In Vedanta, we are not talking about this. We are talking about nitya anitya viveka, atma anatma viveka, sharira traya viveka, pancha kosha viveka, avastha traya viveka, this type of viveka. So that Vedantic differentiation is between eternal and ephemeral, nitya anitya, that which is changeless in 3 periods of time is sat. So focusing on that sat vastu is viveka. Then comes the second aspect of sadhana chatushtaya is vairagya, or the second D, called dispassion. You know, a lot of people fear the word vairagya, that you have to give up one's home, all the wealth you have accumulated, your wife, etc., leading to a life of recluse. Vairagya has more to do with the mind than anything physical. So vairagya is that natural disinclination towards what? Towards worldly enjoyment. It occurs automatically in a person who is endowed with a strong viveka. Vairagya, therefore, is a byproduct of viveka. If viveka points out that everything except Brahman is ephemeral, then next step is to stop seeking that which is impermanent. Now, how do we turn our attention inward instead of external focus? We call that in Vedanta as developing dosha drushti, seeing defects in my external pursuits. We call it developing pratipaksha bhavana. When we study a text called Bhajagovindam, we will study a lot more about the details of developing pratipaksha bhavana. So how can we cultivate vairagya? By constantly educating the mind that all my worldly pursuits have a beginning and has an end. Adi, Anta. They're riddled with pain. They dissipate one's energy. Kathopanishad says, Jarayanti Tejaha. And at the end, it gives that gnawing sense of incompleteness, pushing you to want even more. In turn, it leaves a permanent attachment, which creates the cycle of vasana, chinta, karya, avidya, kama, karma. Like we explored in last class, I called it the sorry go around. Then we get engulfed deep into this ocean of samsara. Then one may ask, what about Swarga? Have accumulated all the punya karmas. I go to Swarga with my meritorious deeds, meritorious actions, or the result of my meritorious actions. But even that has to end. When your punya karmas are exhausted, your merit card is exhausted. Kshine punye matsya lokam vishanti, says Bhagavad Gita. You're mercilessly thrown back into this karma kshetra. So dispassion is the real strength for the seeker. That is why Adi Shankaracharya ji says, defines Vairagya as Iha Swarga Bhogeshu Icharahityam, the absence of desire to enjoy the pleasures of not only this world but also heaven. That is Vairagya. The absence of pleasures here and hereafter. Then comes Shama, Adi, Shatka, Sampatti. 6 disciplines. These are main virtues of mind and intellect equipment. These are Shama, Dama, Uparama or Uparati, it is called, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhana. Let's take each one. Shama. It is the mastery over mind. Mano Nigraha. The willful control of the mind, preventing mind from that mad rush towards this world of objects outside, is Shama. See, mind is naturally inclined to go out. If you remember our BMI chart, the arrows are pointing downwards. They're naturally inclined to go out. They seek worldly pleasures. So, mastering the mind in controlling the extrovert pursuit is called Shama. You have to be careful here not to suppress the mind because it will bubble up and in an uncontrolled emotion. So it is important to sublimate the mind. So Shama is the willful control of the mind. Whenever mind becomes extrovert, due to our habitual tendencies called vasanas, what Shama does is it helps the seeker to slowly turn inward, effortlessly seek the higher in his or her spiritual pursuit. The next Shat Sampatti is Dhamma. Dhamma is the control of sense organs such as eyes, ears, etc. Chakshuhu adi bahya indriya nigraha. If viveka is strong, vairagya is natural. Then what happens? Mastery of the mind is automatic. Dhamma becomes natural and effortless. If viveka is weak, vairagya becomes extremely difficult and shama is impossible. The next Shat Sampatti is Uparama, also called as Uparati. It is that natural withdrawal of both mind and senses from the external objects. It is that effortless curtailment of senses. At this stage, the senses also would have stopped hankering for sense pleasures. So, Uparama is that condition when the mind is peaceful, not tempted by external distractions, not wandering, not rushing towards worldly pleasures. In Viveka Chudamani, Adi Shankaracharya ji calls that Bahya Analambanam Vruttehe Esha Uparati Uttama. The best Uparati is that condition where thoughts are free from influence of the external objects. Then comes titiksha. Titiksha or forbearance. Life is a series of experiences acquired through the body, mind, intellect, etc. Heat, cold, shita, ushna or ushna shita, joy, sorrow, sukha, dukkha, mana, apamana, praise and insult. All these in Vedanta are called dvandvas, pairs of opposite. They come in waves, almost alternating with each other, and it cannot be stopped. So, the capacity of the mind and intellect to bear these pairs of opposites, dvandvas, the little pinpricks in life, without lamenting on them, is called titiksha. Shitoshna, sukha, dukkha, adi, sahishnutvam. In Viveka Chudamani, he says, Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam satitiksha nigadyate. Titiksha is that capacity to endure all the sorrows and sufferings without struggling for redress, revenge, being free from anxiety, not lamenting over them, or simply put, when we say what you cannot cure, you have to endure. Right now we are in that situation. So we have to exhibit highest levels of endurance. Then comes Shraddha, faith. Saint Augustine has the best definition for faith. He says, faith is to believe in what you do not see, but as a result of which you start to see what you believe in. Very powerful statement. You see, Shraddha is not blind belief. Blind belief is not subject to verification. There is no fanatism involved in this. Faith is that trust found on understanding. Our Pujya Gurudev, Swami Chinmayanandaji, called Shraddha as belief plus understanding, an integrated mind and intellect is brought into play in Shraddha. A mind being the source of belief and intellect being the source of understanding. So, an integrated mind and intellect, he would say. Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasaha iti Shraddha. I have faith in the words of my Guru. I have faith in Vedanta. That is Shraddha. You know, it is like the faith in the doctor. I believe that he or she is doing the right diagnostics, and I have faith in the medicine he or she gives me. Then only you are cured of that disease. Here also, we have the chronic disease of ignorance. And as we tread this path, that Shraddha is very much needed to pursue in the spiritual field. Faith in the words of Guru and Vedanta. Then comes Samadhana, concentration, single pointedness. It is called Chitta Ekagrata. You know, there is no success whether you are in the secular field or in the spiritual field without concentration. Once, Swami Vivekananda ji, when he was traveling in the West, he was watching a few boys shooting eggshells. He was just quietly watching them. They were missing more than they were hitting. One boy looked at Swamiji and asked sarcastically, "Would you like to try?" They were hoping to get a good laugh at Swamiji's expense. But to their astonishment, Swamiji shot all of the 12 eggshells, not missing even one. He had never held a gun before in his life. Such is the power of concentration. Samadhana, single pointedness. Then comes the burning desire for liberation, mumukshutva. The fourth D in sadhana chatushtaya. That burning desire for liberation. I am done with this sort of mundane existence. Just like a person whose hair is on fire, who doesn't care about anything else, seeks a water source, with that sense of urgency. That is burning desire for liberation. You know, spiritual pursuit is not for the weak hearted, it is not a hobby, it is not a part time affair, it is not a weekend pursuit, it is a full time pursuit. Moksho me bhuyat iti ichha. He is possessed by that burning desire for liberation. There are four types of mumukshus: ati manda, manda, madhyama, tivra mumukshu. Tivra mumukshu is the one who has that intense desire for liberation. Tivra mumukshu is the one who does not have infinite goals in life. He has infinity as his only goal in life. I know it is a lot of information today. What I have done is to put together a small chart that will kind of summarize everything that we have gone through so far, starting with the 4Ds of Vedanta: viveka, differentiation between permanent and impermanent, nitya, anitya viveka; dispassion or vairagya, disinclination towards impermanent worldly pursuits; shama, willful control of the mind when it is extrovert; dhamma, willful control of the senses when it is extrovert; uparama or uparati is the natural sublimation of extrovert mind and senses; titiksha, endurance of the dvandvas for the pairs of opposites like heat, cold, honor, dishonor, etc. Shraddha is the faith in the words of the Guru and Vedanta. Samadhana, single pointedness of the mind, chitta ekagrata. Mumukshutva is that burning desire for liberation. Now, once the individual is endowed with this fourfold qualification, sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, he or she approaches a guru. In Vedanta, it is called as Guru Upasatti or Guru Upasadana. Gu means ignorance. Ru means the one who dispels that ignorance. There are two qualities that are outlined for a guru in Vedanta. He needs to be Shrotriya Brahmanishta. That means a guru who is well versed in Vedantic literature is Shrotriya. He has studied Prasthanatrayi and Upanishads. Brahmanishta means he is well established in Brahmagnana. It has to ring that note of conviction to the student. Remember, these qualities of the Guru are outlined not to judge a Guru. Our job as seekers is to develop the fourfold qualifications and approach a Guru with humility. Puja Guruji, Swami Tejomayananji, always used to say that it is the job of the Lord to provide a Guru. Once you are ready, the Guru, in fact, when the student is ready, Guru will find you, he says. See, Guru is helpful in clarifying the doubts of the student along his journey. Guru Charanambuja Nirmala Bhaktaha Samsarat Achirat Bhava Muktaha. It says faith in Guru and Shastra are absolutely necessary in the spiritual path for liberation. Then, what about the person who has transcended this samsara, reached the other side of the shore? So, the person who has reached this pinnacle of that spiritual life, who is liberated from the cycle of births and deaths called samsara, he is called as a Jivan Mukta Purusha. Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads also give many indications of this type of person. Bhagavad Gita in second chapter calls such a person as Sthita Prajna. The person who is liberated while living, he is the one who is called as Jivan Mukta, Jivan Neva Mukta. He is a man of steady wisdom, a dynamic person of action. He remains firmly rooted in pure consciousness amidst the turbulence of the world. We will discuss more of the Sthita Prajna Lakshana when we study texts like Bhagavad Gita, Viveka Chudamani, etc. But the liberated person is firm on three things. One, the changeless essence in me and the substratum of the universe is one and the same. The Jiva Brahma Aikya. The self in me is the self everywhere. Madatma Sarva Bhutatma. That self is the substratum of the whole universe that appears as the pluralistic world. So he's very firm on this type of understanding. In our symbolism topic, since we are already past the ahankara, I thought it would be appropriate to bring in why do we break a coconut in our tradition? You know, coconut can be compared to that of the individual jiva. Because in this class I have already explained the Sharira Traya Viveka, the three bodies, Sthula Sharira, gross body or gross physical body, that is represented by the external husk of the coconut. Then the Sukshma Sharira or the subtle body consisting of mind, intellect, etc., emotions, etc., are represented by that white kernel that you see. And the third one is the Karana Sharira or the causal body consisting of the seeds of the latent impressions called vasanas, is represented by the water inside. The three eyes you see on the coconut represent not only two physical eyes, but the third eye of wisdom, Jnana Chakshu. So the coconut breaking is an act of sacrifice. Self-sacrifice for the welfare of all beings. To get rid of that mamatva, the ego. We hope and pray we use this human birth to benefit others. Loka Sangraha. And for the service of all beings. Sarva Bhuta Hitaya. If you look at a coconut tree, it takes water from the ground. What it does, it sweetens it up and keeps it for a passerby to come along and happily gives it up to quench its thirst. Kind of like this. See every part of this coconut tree. What a beautiful sight. So every part of this tree is useful in every respect, mainly to benefit others. Every part of coconut tree is used to benefit others, is useful. That's how we should be. We'll conclude today's session based on that note. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Asatoma Satkamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Hari Om.